Sorry, I haven't seen any Koopas in the vicinity. Well, there's one right in front of you. The arena was built by an emperor way back in AD 72. No wonder it's in ruins. That's pretty old, you know. The spear that you got there is in pretty good shape, though. That paintbrush there belongs in the Sistine Chapel. Sistine means 6 in Latin, in case you're keeping score. To coin a phrase, a lira for your wish. The Trevi was built in 1762. Don't mean to fish. Well, that's part of the Pantheon built in BC 27 to honor Roman gods of mythology. Banister? Handrail? Well, whatever you call it, it comes from the Spanish steppes. Gustav Eiffel built his tower in 1887. They added that flag later. Did you want to know that Leonardo da Vinci painted that? Or that it belonged in the Louvre? Look, read my lips. The Arc de Triomphe dates from the late 1790s. And that is lit daily. This is an enduring symbol of Paris. Notre Dame was begun around 1150. That goes in the South Tower over there. Well, since the Brandenburg Gate was built in 1781, what you've got there is one old horseshoe, I'm telling you something. Frederick the Elector used to park his horse near that park bench on his way to the hunt. All in all, that was a piece of the wall that they built in 1961. That's the hat that sat on Queen Sophie's head. Go to Charlottesburg Palace and put it on a bed. The Parthenon is the peak of classical architecture. That is a piece of the peak right there. The Caryatid is losing face from acid rain. It's a very sad thing, you know, but 2,000 years outside might well explain the way it looks too, you know. Faustinella is part of the elite soldier's costume. Those 4,000 pleats use 25 yards of cotton. Can you believe it? That bronze right there is from the gate built in 131 AD to divide Athens from Hadrianopolis. It's just outside of Pittsburgh. Rembrandt lived in the house from 1639 to 1657. It's a brushstroke of luck finding that. That's a tulip from the biggest auction in the world. 77 football fields worth of flowers. To those who know, Amsterdam cut means a perfect diamond. You have a brilliant cut gem there. The very first canal was dug in 1585. It started as a moat for defense. That's still something. William the Conqueror didn't know he was building a jewelry box for the crown jewels at the time. That hat there is made of bearskin and belongs to a guard who stands at attention in Buckingham's yard. I see Big Ben lent you a hand. Yuck, yuck. Ben is the bell, not the clock, you understand. The word Westminster comes from West Monastery. That statue watches kings crowned and buried. The street where that belongs is named for its builder, Sir Downing. Tell you what, I'll come with you to replace that harp. I've always wanted to say I went to Trinity College. Right at this moment, you're holding the beard of Ireland's most famous playwright. The National Gallery was formed in 1853. Well, you know, it's a St. Patrick's tradition to wear a sprig of what you got there. That's from a street lamp decoration. Guinness produces more than 4 million pints of stout a day and employs more Dubliners than any other company. That's their label right there. Bullfighting was a means of training soldiers. That's what the Matador drapes on his shoulders. Guernica. That was painted in 1937 after the town Guernica was bombed. The Parliament building, Cortez, was built in 1843. What you got there, that's a lion's tail. Well, this city was built on 7 hills in 753 BC. It was home to Caesar, the original Italian stallion. You know what I mean? This heavenly gate was built in the 4th century by Emperor Yongle. That very brick from China's wall is 23 centuries old. The square was expanded in 1949. That obelisk is the monument to the people's heroes. The Good Harvest Hall, most famous shrine of all, dates from the 15th century. This is sort of a riddle. Remember Nero and his fiddle? Women have been banned from the kabuki stage since 1629. The actors will lose face if you don't put back that mask. Panda bears are actually Chinese. He's lucky to live in one of the world's largest zoos, right here in Japan. Well, I see you found a paper lantern sacred to the Sensoji Temple built around 640 AD. That's a Shinto roof hung over a clay circle, under which sumo has been a tradition since 200 AD. Ready to wrestle? Come on, bring it on. The Daibutsu, or Great Buddha's house, was washed off by a tidal wave. May I have a piece of that tangerine? The central structure is 107 feet high and is surrounded by 8 other chapels. All are topped with one of those. Lenin was the first leader of the Soviets after the revolution. That became their symbol, and all the guards wear that. The Bolshoi Ballet was founded in 1776. The Bolshoi ballerinas usually wear that over their leotards. Stalin ordered the metro to begin service in 1935. Now quit stalling and replace that entrance sign. Vaisha Dev sits under the temple roof near a tree riddled with thousands of those. I'll tell you what that Koopa stole, that rickshaw from Asan-Tol. If he gets dry, he won't float. He reclines in Balaju tank like a little boat. You will train yourself, wink wink, to recognize Victoria Terminus when you see it. It was completed in 1888. A flag from the Gateway of India. It was built in 1911 to hail the British Emperor when the Raj ruled. Shiva belongs to the Hindu shrine at Elephanta. It was built from solid rock in 450 AD. There are no, I repeat, there are no live elephants there. Forget the peanuts. That golden dome rightly belongs in the old city as it was built in 691. That's a part of what Herod built 2,000 years before to replace the second temple. Well, can you say crenellated? You don't have to put the in there, but anyway, can you say crenellated? That stands 45 feet high and was built in the 1500s. Holy cow, dare I breathe? It's the first copy of the Old Testament, which was scripted 100 years before Christ. That's a towel, and it goes to the Topkapi Museum, built in 1453 as a Sultan's palace. The Blue Mosque was built in 1603 by an Ottoman Sultan. The tortoise who stole that title really blew it. Put that back on the eastern end, where the Galata Bridge is a dock for the Golden Horn ferries. That telescope will help you see why the CN Tower is in the Guinness Book of World Records as the world's highest observation point. Why, that's a Mountie hat. The Mounties always get their man. I hope you always get your Mario. I understand he's a pretty scared little dude. The symbol was taken from the Canadian flag. That gold leaf was taken from City Hall. Well, the Golden Gate Bridge was built in 1937. That horn you got there belongs in the middle of the 4,200-foot span. Alcatraz has been a prison from 1861 until 1963. The inmates really did wear what you got there. The first cable car traveled in 1873. They were named the first moving National Historic Landmark back in 1964. That was placed atop the most distinct building in downtown San Francisco in 1972, the year that the pyramid was completed. She was a present from the people of France. That's her torch. New York was lucky to get the United Nations. That's Old Glory. Although the World Trade Center is taller, that Apes Home is more famous. Radio City Music Hall is the largest indoor theater in America. That person there is a dancer. The Spaniards took those from Aztec temples. Koopas took them from the Zocalo. Well, the moral is never steal a mural from the National Palace. Got the picture? The angle is that the angel was built to honor revolutionary heroes. Well, that was already 500 years old when it was uncovered by the Aztecs. The air is still thin on the sunroof, you know what I'm saying? That's a catalog of artworks in the palace. Those Koopas have stealing down to an art. Well, the stadium was built in 1950 just for the World Cup soccer competition. What you got there has been round, wink wink, since then. Sugarloaf Mountain is so steep, the ride up its side is accomplished in 2 stages. Well, I shall tell you. That's a shell from Copacabana Beach. I'll give you a head start. That headdress is fit for Carnival. Teatro Colón was built in 1908. That flute you got there is instrumental to the symphony orchestra. That's all the guys with the horns and stuff. When they used that to build the obelisk, Argentina's capital was already 400 years old. Finding that old lasso is quite a relief. Argentina is famous for its cows and for its beef too, you see. Well, it's made of sandstone like the rest of the Sphinx. Take it back to Giza, 9 miles from Cairo. Well, there's no masking its identity. Tut's death mask was made of gold aplenty in 1324 BC. The Mosque of Alabaster was built in 1830. That clock there doesn't work. What that is, it's the peak of the largest pyramid. 2.5 million tons of stone. Can you believe it? The evolution revolution will make headlines. What you got there was discovered by Richard Leakey from the family of famous anthropologists. Well, that elephant is lucky. If she were Asian instead of African, only her brothers could grow tusks. Completed in 1970, the Kenyatta Conference Center was once a United Nations headquarters. Let's do lunch. What do you think? Some say it isn't the music that makes the cobra jig. I'd ask him if he wasn't so big. Well, that comes from the tallest, most famous landmark in Marrakesh. It has global importance. That carved tiling on the tombs was inspired by the nearby Spanish. Nearly everyone buried here was royalty. Well, here's the deal. We can ride the 26 miles to Eureka to put that saddleback you got there. I'll tell you what, you wear it, I'll ride. Now a republic since the French Revolution, Parisians knew it was a good solution. Well, it's sandwiched between Spain and Germany, and they used French toast when they sandwiched it, you see. You scored! That's from the Opera House, opened in 1973 on Bennelong Point. Well, the Harbor Bridge opened in 1932. That girder is a piece of steel they stole. What else is new? Well, that's a tree-dwelling marsupial, and he eats eucalyptus. You can ferry to the zoo or put him on the bus. Sydney-siders are avid surfboard riders. They cover Bondi's beautiful white sand every weekend. In fact, I'm walking over there right now. That Buddha is one of Bangkok's most sacred monuments. He was carved in the 14th century. You know, the klongs have been used like roads for over 200 years. Believe it or not. What you've got there grows outside what used to be a library in the old capital city. Hey, does that spire you have there inspire you to return it to the monastery of the reclining Buddha? What you got there separates an old American Jeep from a jeepney. You'll have to swim a moat and cross a drawbridge to return that cannonball. Rizal was a famous poet and hero. That poem should be set in stone. Malacanang Palace was originally the summer estate of a Spanish nobleman. The thermal springs have been supplying bath water for 2,000 years. That's a lot of water. What you have there is the support from the bridge destroyed by the Nazis and rebuilt in 1949. The castle-like building was renovated at the turn of the century and still used as a fish market. That's a flag right there. The Millennium Monument celebrates 1,000 years of Magyar victory. That cross replaces the original one put on the mountain in 1643. They need that for the roofs over the stadium. There's one for summer and one for winter. Well, Brother Andre would be glad to see you carrying that dome back to the oratory. There hasn't been an accident on that tram since it was built. You can also see the owner's jade collection in the Baum Gardens. The Excelsior overlooks the Royal Hong Kong Yacht Club. Me, I was overlooked as a child. Daylight is distributed throughout the building by mirrors and computers. Believe it or not. Well, what that is a Panisi sail. You'll have to find the old Batavia section of town. What you got there is from the craft collection of Southeast Asia's finest museum. That flame belongs on the monument symbolizing the nation's independence. You're in Deutschland. From 1961 to 1989, though, it was two countries. The British troops set the mansion on fire in 1814. That shows its address. Well, the flagpole you're looking for is dwarfed by a 555-foot tall monument. Well, there will be a column in the Post about that column from Lincoln Memorial. Believe it or not, there was no Supreme Court building at all until 1935. Berlin was founded on the Spree River in the 14th century. Francisco Pizarro designed the palace himself right around 1500. Well, Peruvians use seeds, vegetables, and herbs to make those beautiful colors there. Francisco Pizarro had the cathedral built over 450 years ago. Hey, the Muslims won't have a prayer if you can't deliver that prayer rug. That arch brick is from Al Mandain, just outside Baghdad's southern border. You know, 8 different varieties of dates grow around here. That's from a tree near the Tigris, that one right there. The Finnish army used that, what you got there, in 1748 to build a fortress on nearby islands around here. That lamp belongs to Helsinki's train station. See the giant outside there. The church where that belongs was built right into its granite foundation. No easy trick. Well, that's a bronze ring from the Imitar and Sotka statue. Athens became the capital of Greece in 1834, but it was founded 3,000 years before that. Beware of Greeks bearing gifts, is what they used to say. I don't believe it applies today, though. They named this place after the dam that was built at the mouth of the Amstel River in 1270. Not to sound long-winded, but you're in the European land of windmills. London's been the capital for 2,000 years. Although in Europe, it's an island, I hear. Okay, here's the deal. 26 counties make up the Republic of Ireland. 6, just 6, are part of the United Kingdom. Coming to the capital of the Republic of Ireland was a capital idea. The north coast faces the Atlantic and the Bay of Biscay. The Mediterranean Sea is the other way. Like Barcelona, Madrid is well known. It's the capital city and stands alone. Beijing is the largest city in the country, covering 6,486 square miles. You know, Chinese culture is extremely ancient, 3,000 years old or more. This Japanese city used to be called Edo before the emperor changed it in 1877. 100 kopecks to each ruble is the rule. All Russian children learn that in school. It doesn't matter who you czar. Moscow has been the capital of the Soviet Union since 1918. It is interesting to note that Nepal is the only Hindu kingdom in the world. Well, you're in the middle of a crossroads to an ancient trade route. Tibet to Kathmandu to India. Given to the British as a royal wedding gift, this city is the biggest port in India. This island city is officially called Mumbai, but the name seemed to have bombed. It's now called Bombay. Well, you can sort of understand that when you think about it. Well, you're at the eastern end of the Mediterranean Sea, as well as the Sea of Galilee. This land is long and narrow, 270 miles long and only 68 miles wide. Istanbul was Constantinople, and Ankara was Angora. But Turkey has been Turkey for 10,000 years, maybe even more. This country is a major force in Asia Minor. Well, you're in the largest city in the world's second largest country. Home to the Seneca Indians, Toronto was established in 1792 when it was called York. Enough history for you? That is for me. This city was named for St. Francis of Assisi in 1776. Absolutely no one was interested in San Francisco until the gold rush. Well, legend has it that the colonists bought Manhattan for $24 from the Indians. Now that's a real estate deal. Thanks for asking one of New York's finest. You're in New York City. This capital city is the oldest in the New World, founded in 1325. Hey, show some respect for the glorious Aztecs who settled what is now the largest city in the world. Well, it covers nearly 1/2 of South America. It's the 5th largest country in the world. Brazil was discovered by the Portuguese in 1500. You thought they spoke Spanish, didn't you? Wrong. Buenos Aires was founded in 1536 by guess who? The Spanish. That's who. The Plaza de Mayo is the biggest square in Buenos Aires. The city's name means good air. Well, you're between two continents that begin and end with the letter A. Inventors of mummies, papyrus and Hyrule. Your mommy would love a postcard from here in Cairo. Just a little rhyme there. Well, the British colonized Kenya in the 1880s. Its capital, Nairobi, began life as a little train station. So, tired of traveling? You can sleep in the cradle of civilization in the nearby famous Rift Valley. Well, you're in the northwest corner of the African continent. If I don't say Morocco, I won't be content. Hint, hint, wink, wink. Marrakesh was founded as an artistic center in 1062 AD and has been pretty colorful ever since. Hey, I don't like to be bossy, but can't you recognize an Aussie? Although Canberra is the capital, you're in Aussie's oldest and largest city. The Thai people call their capital city Krongthep. They never call it Bangkok already. Look, have fun here in Thailand. You'll soon learn what's what. You get it? What's what? Ha! Though 87 languages can be heard, the biggies are English and Filipino. These islands create a barrier between the Pacific and Indian Oceans. The highest point in Hungary is Mount Giggs at 3,330 feet. Hungary's most famous native son is composer Franz Liszt. Well, you're in the second largest city in the world's second largest country. Montreal means Royal Mount. Well, Hong Kong consists of a peninsula and a group of 235 islands. That's a big group. There are only 2 European colonies left in Asia, and you're in one of them right now. By the 18th century, these Indonesian islands were ruled by the Dutch. Indonesia is the world's largest archipelago, 3,400 miles long. Can you believe it? Well, the Library of Congress, U.S. Supreme Court, and the Capitol building are all on Capitol Hill. You know, it's odd, not unlike me, but Washington, D.C.'s residents could not vote for president until 1964. Peru is also known as the land of the Incas. Okay, naming its borders in order, you've got Ecuador, Colombia, Brazil, Bolivia, and Chile. The country's name comes from the Arabic word for cliff. Iraq, Mesopotamia, means the land between 2 rivers. In this case, the Euphrates and the Tigris. Well, you're in Helsinki, capital of one of the Scandinavian countries, in case you were wondering. Finland was once part of Sweden, then a duchy of Russia. Or was that half a duchy? I don't know. Though 87 languages can be heard, the biggies are English and Filipino. These islands create a barrier between the Pacific and Indian Oceans. What you got there separates an old American Jeep from a jeepney. You'll have to swim a moat and cross a drawbridge to return that cannonball. Rizal was a famous poet and hero. That poem should be set in stone. Malacanang Palace was originally the summer estate of a Spanish nobleman. There's a Koopa east of here. I saw one north of here. Well, I saw a Koopa northeast of here. Well, there's a Koopa northwest of here. There's a Koopa south of here. There's a Koopa southeast of here. There's a Koopa southwest of here. I'm pretty sure. There's a Koopa west of here.